Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody had a good Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I did. You guys probably saw that cook with my dad. That was a lot of fun. And other than that, it was just kind of relaxing, which is the best weekends at times. Uh, just sitting here this afternoon with my Luna, end of the workday. Cheers, everybody. And thinking about this week's cook. And this is going to be a special cook for me because it's a recipe that is from my childhood. Um, my grandmother actually used to make this recipe. My grandparents lived in Las Vegas pretty much my whole childhood, and so every Thanksgiving we'd see them about once a year. We would get my dad's old Bronco. That was before seatbelts were a big thing. My brother and I would pile back there and make about a 2-day trip down through the desert to get to Las Vegas from Sacramento, and just have so many great memories about that trip and visiting with them. And she was a really wonderful, special person. Um, but specifically regarding her cooking, she didn't really like to cook all that much. But the few things she did like to make were, in my opinion, who doesn't love their grandmother's cooking? So this is one of those dishes. And what it was is we would have, of course, the traditional turkey dinner and so forth. And at the time, I didn't realize it. As a kid, you're not really paying attention. But she would use those leftover some of the turkey, to make this King Ranch casserole. Um, and for those of you who don't know what this is about, um, a little backstory. So my grandmother spent a great deal, a big portion of her life in Palestine, Texas. And in Texas, this casserole is a traditional thing that you would make your family. It's a layering of tortillas and, of course, normally it's chicken, and she used turkey, but chicken, and then cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken, this Rotel sauce, which has some chilies in there, and you layer it with the cheddar cheese, and then more tortillas, more of the mixture, and then cheese on top. And wow, it was really good. And I was a super picky kid, and so the fact that I remember this and really enjoyed it at the time uh, says something. I defer to the fact that I think everybody loves their grandparents' cooking, grandmother's cooking. So anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my grandmother, and I'm going to show you what we're working with when we get back. Um, but until then, like I said, thank you for coming back to the channel to see Luna and I. Um, I really appreciate it, having so much fun with these recipes, and I'm happy to take you guys along the journey. So, like I said, when I bring you back, I'll show you what we are working with. Be back in a bit. Okay, as you can see, we have got some really yummy ingredients here in front of us. Let's start at the lower left here. We've got our corn tortillas. That's going to go in there for the layering of the King Ranch casserole. Very important. We've got some bell peppers, yellow and red bell pepper, hiding back there. We've got an onion. We've got a couple of jalapenos, some cilantro, ultimately for garnish. We've got some olive oil, and then very, very important. You'll notice back here we've got the Rotel diced tomatoes. You cannot have King Ranch casserole without using Rotel diced tomatoes. That's why I left those in the can so you guys could take a look at that. Back there we've got some cream of chicken and cream of mushroom soup along with some sour cream. That's going to give it a nice little zing in there. Some cheese in the back. That's for our layering. Cheddar cheese. Important to note. A lot of times I'll use a mixed cheese. However, for this casserole, I find that you just using that medium cheddar cheese on its own works really well. We've got a whole chicken here, and what are we going to do different than a lot of other people that might make this recipe? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to coat that chicken with olive oil liberally all over. We've got some of that mesquite seasoning you can notice back there. That's a Kent Rollins mesquite seasoning. I've mentioned him before. If you're interested in outdoor cooking, chuck wagon type cooking, check out his YouTube. It's pretty neat. Anyway, long story short, so we've got that oil on that chicken. We are going to get this whole chicken covered with that mesquite seasoning very liberally all over. I should note that I did pat the chicken down after I took it out, so it's all dry, ready to take on that oil. Once that seasoning is on there, we're going to put that on our Traeger grill, get some extra smoke going, and we are going to smoke that chicken. And I think what that's going to do is it's going to give it a really unique flavor in this casserole. That's what we're going to do with that. Okay, you notice over here for our spices, we've got some granulated garlic. We're going to put some more of that in there. I didn't mention we've got fresh garlic along with that onion over there, but we're going to use both the fresh and granulated. Chili powder, cumin, so ground ancho chili, and then salt and pepper to taste. And then, of course, on the lower left there for garnish, once everything's all cooked, is some fresh pico de gallo. I think that the crunch of that fresh pico over the creamy casserole makes for a nice contrast of flavor. So that's going to be really good as well. When I bring you guys back, I will show you how we start getting those vegetables sauteed. Be back in a bit. Guys, and we are back. Wow. As you can see here, we've got our chicken um, all thoroughly coated with that olive oil and a bunch of that mesquite seasoning, so he's ready to go. You might be thinking, wow, what's going on here? Why is the chicken standing, not sitting like that? Well, what that is that is a ceramic dish, and it has a cylinder in the middle with little holes in it. And what you do with that is a lot of people like to put like a beer in there or some other type of liquid. I actually prefer like a soda. I feel like that the beer kind of gives the chicken a little bit of an off taste, and so I like the soda, which I think between the sugar and the moisture, it really keeps the inside of the chicken super moist when you're roasting it like this. So that's a little trick there. Over here is what's called a cold smoker. So basically, the way a Traeger works is that there's pellets in there, and that's creating some smoke, which is it's almost like a convection oven. It's going to come around here and smoke it, but it's a very mild smoke flavor. So if you want a more intense flavor, you can use what's called a cold smoker, which this thing is full of the hickory pellets. And we're going to light that right now, and what that's going to do is that's going to create quite a bit of supplementary smoke, which is going to be good for your cook. So we've got this dandy little flamethrower here. So well, see if we can get it lit. There it is. And we're just going to get those pellets so that they're smoking. And what that's going to do is the open flame is going to die down, and that's just going to create a nice supplementary smoke for our chicken to give it a nice flavor. So that should be adequate. So we'll put that up. And like I said, once that flame dies out, you guys can already see the nice smoke that's creating. So that works out really well. We've got our temperature probe here. We're going to cook this chicken to an internal temperature of about 165, and that is good to go. I'm going to turn this over. This will probably take about 45 minutes or so. When I bring you guys back, we will start sauteing those veggies for our casserole. Be back in a bit. So as you can see, we've got our olive oil down. So that's been heating up a bit. So now we're going to add some of our onions. Get those down there. And as I'm adding these things, it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So here we've got our red and yellow peppers. Um, I was mentioning before that what's inspired me to make this dish is this is my rendition of my grandma Betty's King Ranch casserole, and you know she was the quintessential Southern lady, and what I mean by that is she took a lot of pride in the way she carried herself and the way things should be done, and it really showed in how she lived her life. Um, and she, so I'll go back to uh, how this dovetails into this. She liked things to be done a certain way, um, and she had a very beautiful smile. And I guarantee you that if she were here right now, she'd be looking at me with that beautiful smile, but in her mind, she'd be thinking, "Why are you adding all these peppers and chilies to my casserole?" Anyway, that's kind of funny. So, you know, uh, recipes often bring back good memories, and that is a good one. And it's fun to take somebody else's recipe and make it your own to what you like. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm kind of a fan of the peppers here. Of course, we got our jalapenos and our bell peppers, and I think it'll add a nice flavor to the dish. So she'll have to forgive me for that. In any event, we're going to let this cook down. We want to cook this down probably about 8 or 10 minutes until those veggies get translucent. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to bring you guys back, and we are going to add in the rest of our sauce base into this while our chicken outside is continuing to cook. So hang on, and I will bring you back in a bit. So as you can see, we've got some color on those veggies. They've been going down for about, like I said, about 8 to 10 minutes or so. Now we're going to add our granulated garlic. Let's get that in there. And as I always like to mention, you don't want to add the garlic until after the onions and other types of veggies have had a chance to cook, because garlic has a tendency to get a little bit burnt. It cooks a lot quicker than the other veggies. So we're going to get that integrated in. And I've lowered the temperature to about a medium now. So that'll work good for starting to add our additional ingredients. So of course we've got our soup mix here. We'll get that in there. And really, the cream of mushroom soup and cream of chicken soup pretty much make anything better. So you can't go wrong with these ingredients. It's going to be a lovely, very, very tasty casserole. So get those mixed in there. We've got our sour cream. Put that on top. And what that's going to do, that's going to give this a real nice zing at the end. So that's good. So get that integrated. And then we've got our Rotel. We've got 1 can and 2 cans. There we go. So let's mix that around, and then we'll start to add our spices. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this simmer down while the chicken is continuing to cook, because that's not quite ready yet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get that chicken off the Traeger and shred that. And then we'll start to bring this together here. So like I said, we'll turn this down to a low. We just want this nice and low and simmering. But before we do that, let me get those spices in there. Okay. So we've mentioned the chili powder. We're going to go for about a teaspoon down of that, about that much. And then our cumin, also about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more cumin. Cumin adds a really nice flavor to any kind of Latin or Mexican dish, or Tex-Mex in this case. So, and then we've got our ground ancho chili, and that is a dried version of the poblano chili. We're going to go down for about that much of that. And then also that granulated garlic. Let's get some more of that in there. We'll lower that down a little bit. A little salt and pepper to taste. Okay. And I'm going to actually go really easy on the salt because those soups have quite a bit of salt in there. I don't want to over salt it at this point. So let's just get this integrated. Like I said, we're just going to let that simmer down on a low. I think I said medium earlier. I think I'm going to change my mind and go on a nice low simmer. We just want that to kind of have all those flavors start to meld together. And that's going to be our sauce mixture for our casserole. King Ranch casserole. Oh, also wanted to add, a lot of the traditional recipe for this calls for olives too, black olives. So if you're a fan of olives, please add those in too. My family and I are not huge olive fans, and so I did not include those, but I think that that could be a nice complement to the dish if that's something that you like. So consider that as well. Okay, like I said, let's simmer that down. When I bring you guys back, we'll shred that chicken and prep this casserole. So as you can see, our chicken is off the Traeger, and it looks good. Kind of looks like we interrupted him mid morning, but I'll leave that to your imagination. In any event, I'm going to spare you guys the gory details of taking the chicken apart. I'm going to want to shred a bunch of this, and I'm going to integrate that into our sauce. What I would mention, though, is this is prime stock material. So don't throw any of those bones or anything that away. Reserve that. You can put those in boiled water and simmer that down, and that would make great stock for a future recipe. So just a quick note on that. When I bring you back, I will show you that chicken integrated into that sauce, and then we'll bring this casserole together. So as you can see, we've got our sauce, and then what I did is I shredded that chicken, and man, that chicken turned out juicy. You could just see the juice coming from the chicken, so I highly recommend you guys cooking chicken that way. It works really well. Even if you don't decide to do it in a sauce like this, you could do that separately. It'd be great. Anyway, I simmered that down in the sauce for a bit, so that would have a chance to get those flavors integrated. And now I'm going to show you how we're going to get this layered. Got a little bit of cooking spray down here at the bottom. Let's get some corn tortillas down there, huh? All right, then we're going to get a layer of this beautiful sauce here. We're going to spread that all around. Okay. And as we go, and make sure we get all of that chicken. You want a piece of chicken and cheese in every bite. So that's really good. And I gave that a little taste. That tastes about perfect, the way I like it. Okay. That looks pretty good for that first layer. And then let's get some of this home style shredded cheddar down here. We'll make a nice layer of that. Oh boy, that's going to be good. I can't recall if I mentioned in the video, we've got the oven preheated at 350. We're going to do this covered for about 35 minutes, and then we'll uncover it for the last, let's say 3 to 5 minutes under that broiler just to get some nice color on that cheese. So let's get another layer on here and get the sauce on. And then what I'm going to do here is that final layer will be just some tortillas, whatever sauce is remaining, and that cheese. And that's going to be very, very tasty, guys. So when I bring everybody back, I will show you what we ended up with. I think we should end this clip with some more of this beautiful cheese just right on the top there. Oh boy. Okay, guys, this is going to be great. Be back in a bit. All right, everyone. And that is what we ended up with. You can see that I garnished the top with some cilantro, which I think will be really nice. And then if you remember when I went over the initial ingredients, we're going to put some pico de gallo on top of that as well. And I know that's going to work good with the freshness of the pico de gallo with the creaminess of the casserole. It's going to go great. But as I always say, we need to go in for that big bite to see what we ended up with. Be back in a bit. All right, guys, and we are back. So, wow, this looks really good. So we've got our oh, you guys can't really see that. We've got our King Ranch casserole with some cilantro on there, and we got some pico de gallo over here, and I'm going to try to mix those flavors, and I think it's going to go really good. Let's dive in here. Hopefully it's not too hot still. I kind of dove in right when it came out. Maybe to let it cool a little bit. Let's see. I think that pico might help with that problem. So let's see. That is. Whew. You got the creaminess of the sauce and the cheese, and then there's a lot of spice there, which I really enjoy. As I mentioned before, my grandmother probably would not have liked that, but I think it works well. And then it works really well with the freshness of the pico blended in there with that moist chicken. I'm gonna go in for the third bite. Normally don't do that. Let's see. Another winner. What can I say? I think you guys should try this recipe out. I know you'd enjoy it. Thanks again, as always, for coming back to the channel. I really appreciate it. If you're not already and you like this type of content, please subscribe. If you think this video was good, hit that thumbs up and get those notifications. We will catch you guys in the next one.